Canada's best-known parliamentarians. She has been a prominent voice in federal politics for 15 years and brings a perspective that is both thoughtful and engaging and rooted in community action. She has long been recognized in her essential role that municipalities play in delivering sustainable solutions and improving everyday lives of Canadians. She understands the challenges that Canada faces today, whether environmental, social, or economic, and are being felt first and foremost at the local level. If you attended our annual conference in the past years, you know she always speaks with great candor. You can trust Elizabeth May to tell it like it is, and she does do that very well. C'est pourquoi c'est un plaisir d'accueillir sur la scène principale de notre congrès annuel cette année. Please join me in welcoming Elizabeth May.
Merci. Bonjour, merci Marc pour l'introduction très générale. Et comme toujours, c'est un grand honneur d'être ici parmi les chefs des communautés, des villes, des cités, partout au Canada. It's an honor to be here on Treaty 6 and homeland of the Métis Nation and be able to say to all of you, it's an honor to have the reputation for telling it like it is. I usually don't have speaking notes because I find it much more interesting that I, like you, have no idea what I'm going to say next. It keeps me on the edge of my seat. I have no... So, first of all, let me say, as a British Columbian and as a Canadian, I love Alberta. Please don't leave. We love you. From the bottom of my heart, I don't know how we can do what we need to do as Canadians, but Team Canada requires that we're all together now, elbows up, all together now. But I also say usually elbows up and arms outstretched, because we've got friends and neighbors and family south of the border. We don't have to be in conflict with each other, even if the president is nuts. It's not their fault. It somehow happened. And with all due respect to the democracy of the United States of America, I sure hope it survives. The U.S. Constitution, unlike ours, we didn't have a written constitution for ages, but ever since the Revolution, so you take it for, historically, a bunch of radicals wrote the U.S. Constitution who were deeply invested in a skepticism about power and people who held power. So the Constitution was written in the United States to protect against someone grabbing power for themselves. The Constitution is being tested, and I think as allies and friends and neighbors, we have to root for the U.S. getting through the rough patch it is experiencing. Because as hard as it is for us in being victims of illegal and unjust tariffs, the reality is it's much worse for people living there. And I think we have to remember that and recognize that we are so lucky, always remember, that we are so blessed to live and to be Canadians. I don't go in the jingoistic direction of U.S. politicians who want to say it's the greatest country on earth. We're just the best place to live, and we have to protect that and be grateful for it. So what I want to share with you this morning, first of all, I don't want to give a political speech, quelle surprise. You can take it as written that the Green Party of Canada and our shadow cabinet and everybody has so much respect for the Federation of Canadian Municipalities and all the local leadership that gets elected to take care of people locally. And the policy shop that you've got at FCM is second to none. So take it as written that we will always put in our platform the key asks of FCM. We will always put in our pre-budget submissions to every finance minister the key asks of FCM. Predictable funding that one can count on, that you don't have to go through endless mazes of new and unpredictable application process. Predictable, stable funding. And I just met with the Council of Municipalities of Alberta, and I know that it's on everybody's mind, the water and wastewater infrastructure questions. Who's going to pay for that? Well, we all ought to, and it's not fair to put that burden on the municipal order of government. So we'll always... We also are the party that's most committed to a fiscally responsible platform, which most people didn't even notice, but the Parliamentary Budget Office looked at our platform this time last year and found that it was the one that reduced the deficit the most. But that's because we found creative ways of finding financing, like, you know, the wealthiest of the wealthy and the financial transaction tax. You can, all the studies we asked the Parliamentary Budget Office to do are still up on their website. So c'est tout public, c'est accessible pour tout le monde sur le website de le bureau de l'officier budgétaire parlementaire. So I'll spare you a recitation of all the ways in which we agree with you and support you. I want to say a few things that are really important right now. Number one, I've said we love Alberta, please don't leave. That's really important. I also want to share again a solution for ensuring not just a place at the table, but a significant voice and a deciding voice at the table for the municipal and local order of government. And that's by replicating something. It's been in the Green Party platform for the last decade or so. But we discovered that in Australia, they have something called the Council of Australian Governments, plural. Australia being a country that, like Canada, within the Commonwealth, Westminster parliamentary democracy, et cetera, but unlike other countries in the Commonwealth, Australia is the one that has the strongest parallels with state governments that are a lot like our provinces. And they work together better because they have created this Council of Australian Governments, where they meet around the same table. State government leaders, federal government leaders, local government leaders at the same table on a regular basis. And for the Greens, we want to expand it into 4 quadrants with Indigenous government leaders and have policy coherence by having consensus from each order of government that says, right, our goal is a national transportation infrastructure that includes rural Canada, so that you're able to get a bus from A to B from anywhere in this country that's safe and affordable. When we share goals like that, we'll be able to deliver on them. So we're very much believers in the reality that this country's rural communities can't be left behind. My riding is predominantly rural. The biggest community in my riding, where I live in Sydney, is 10,000 people. But where I grew up in Cape Breton Island, the community where I lived was 42 people. So that was big, you know, and really hard to handle the infrastructure needs of Margaree Harbour. But in all seriousness, we can't think as a country unless we're embracing all parts of our country and making sure we take care of each other. And we're there for you on that. So we now know, and I met last night with the Elbows Up Climate Coalition of local leadership, and I'm deeply grateful to all of you, any of you who are in this room. We know, and from the disasters that have hit British Columbia, that while climate change is a global threat, the impacts of the climate crisis are always local. The heat dome in British Columbia in summer of 2021 killed 619 people in 4 days, and one of them was nearly my stepdaughter, who's in her late 30s. Because extreme heat, she was facing 50 degrees Celsius in Ashcroft, British Columbia, 50. As the day that Lytton burnt to the ground in the 15 minutes where they didn't have time to get the brand new fire truck out of the station before the fire station burned to the ground. But a lot of people forget the first $1 billion extreme weather event in Canada was right here in Edmonton in 1987, when the tornado touched down in the trailer park, killed 27 people. I think it's 27 people, and had 300 injured. And they had early warnings at Environment Canada put out, but it led to changes. It led to more Doppler radar. It led to better warning systems like our phones going wee, wee, for emergencies. But Dr. Gordon McBain, who founded the Centre for Catastrophic Loss Reduction at the University of Western Ontario, talks about going to Edmonton to the trailer park and seeing what happened, and knowing that the people, even if they had warnings, there were no below-ground shelters for people from tornadoes. This is a climate event that happened in 1987. Gordon went back years later because he wanted to see if they'd followed the advice on adaptation that came from a group of experts, and wanted to see if they had installed below-ground shelters to get away from killer tornadoes in time. And what he found was they had taken action. They had something new built. It was a statue and a shrine and a memorial to the people who died. But they still had no sirens, and they still had no underground shelters. So our ability to learn from disasters, to take the information we gleaned from the forest fire that hit Jasper, and Mayor Richard Ireland being a hero for the work, and the work of Rebecca Alty when she was mayor of Yellowknife, that forest fires are terrifying. Floods, Hurricane Fiona, terrifying. Heat domes sneak up on you, and they're not insurable losses because buildings are insured, but human lives aren't. We need to be much better prepared, and I'm so grateful. I was recently on a panel with Carol Saab, and I know how much FCM is investing in sharing information about resilience and community preparedness. But we need to learn from the local experts, who are basically any community who's been through an extreme weather event has information that needs to be shared. And I know the Minister for Emergency Management and Community Resilience, Eleanor Olszewski, was here to talk with you, or at least she was on the stage with Gregor Robertson. We need to make sure that the federal government understands they need partnerships fast across Canada with the local order of government leadership, and they need to talk to the firefighters, they need to talk to the first responders, and they need to prepare in advance. It's not good enough to have money flow to a community after the disaster has hit. We need to save lives now. And that may not be a popular we need to it keeps me up at night knowing that we have an El Niño summer coming, and Canada is warming faster than the global average temperature on the rest of the planet, and we're still not prepared. We still don't have what we need of a federal, provincial, territorial, local government and Indigenous planning table that meets all the time and says, what did we just learn from that last disaster? I've got constituents who still have PTSD from a bad windstorm that happened 7 years ago that took out all the power over Christmas week. And I have constituents who still break into a cold sweat when the wind gets really loud, because they remember when the tree fell across their house and they had to try to get cross roads that were with downed trees, and they couldn't get there to get to their son's school and try to get him home. These things touch us in a deep way. They are not just one day's news story and turn the page and then it's over. It's never really over if you've been pulled from your home and don't know if you're ever going to see it again. We can do much, much better as a nation in both preparing for extreme weather events and shifting away from fossil fuels as quickly as we can to keep the level of those extreme events as low as is humanly possible, given where we already are in terms of the planet's global the science is telling us where we are right now. It's not good. So in the time I have left, I thought I'd just try to wing it, because I don't know what to tell you about Mark Carney. I'm a straight shooter, as you've heard. I've known closely and worked closely with the PMOs for now 6 different prime ministers. This is a different kind of prime minister's office and a different kind of prime minister. So I've worked with every prime minister closely, through Mulroney to Chrétien to Paul Martin to Harper to Trudeau to now. And this is, if you're trying to navigate the system and figure out what's the pathway to the funding, I look at Bill C-20, which is called Build Canada Homes. And by the way, shout out to Alberta for being in the lead for housing starts. So good, we got to figure out what you're doing right. But I look at Bill C-20, Build Canada Homes Act, I still can't decide how I'm going to vote on it, because its goal is to do absolutely nothing. Now, that's troubling. FCM, as always, wrote a really great brief on how to improve the legislation. But I've got to say, in reading the Federation of Canadian Municipalities brief to the Legislative Committee studying C-20, FCM did the enormous compliment and generous favor to the legislation of acting as if there was something there that needed improving. Sorry, but if you look at Bill C-20, all it does is create a Crown corporation called the Build Canada Homes Agency. If that sounds familiar, it's because September last year, the Carney administration created the Build Canada Homes Agency, but it was a special operating agency, which means it was under Treasury Board. They did the same. The Major Projects Office is also a special operating agency. Special operating agencies, same thing for defense procurement. They're created under Treasury Board. They have less transparency than most, and they're not required to have legislation. So that's where we're at. So the Build Canada Homes Act, Bill C-20, is going to create a, wait for it, Crown Corporation to build Canada homes, which we kind of already have, and it's called CMHC. So I'm still mystified, don't know how to vote on it. If you have any thoughts, let me know, because I really want to see this government succeed. God knows Canadians need to know, because our country has to succeed. And in a world that's increasingly dislodged from international law, dislodged from predictability, we need our close allies. We need to link arms with other democracies that respect human rights. We need to have Canada be the island of stability and sanity that we are now. So I don't take pot shots at the current government. I just know that I've never seen anything like it. So I think someday there'll be a Netflix series, and I don't know how it will end. It'll be binge watching for sure, particularly for Canadians. And the storyline is simple. Can a simple genius PhD in economics who's never done anything but banking run for office and succeed? It's a cliffhanger. I don't know which way it's going to go, but I honestly don't know, and I'm rooting for us to succeed. But we need to recognize, and for you in local government who are trying to navigate systems that are increasingly weird and hard to imagine, you're not the only ones, because this is not a PMO like all the others. They all have in common wanting to increase the power and centralize power in the PMO. That's a given. But helping form partnerships with other orders of government has got to be something they start realizing needs to be done urgently. So I think my time is up, and I want to thank you again. C'est pour moi un grand honneur d'être ici. Merci mille fois pour l'opportunité de parler avec tout le monde. If you ever want my help on anything, I like to think I'm the member of parliament for everybody. If you need anything, you want a letter hand-delivered to the Minister for Housing or the Minister of Finance, I'm your girl. I'm good at delivering letters. I don't know what else I'm good at, but I will work hard for all of you, because you are the real leaders of this country, because you take care of your communities. Thank you for doing it. Keep doing it, no matter how hard it gets for you locally. And I know it's not easy. Thank you for your service. God bless you. Thank you. Thank you.
As always, well done. Well, a huge thank you to Elizabeth May for sharing her thoughts and her perspective with us. She is one of the most loyal political attendees of this conference, and it's always a